Welcome to the Virtual Team Building and Management webinar. This webinar is provided to you free of charge by the BEVA Learning Institute. You will be watching a pre-recorded webinar in order to ensure that we maintain good quality of production. At the end of this webinar, roughly in 45 minutes, I will be joining live to answer any questions or to discuss any concerns that perhaps any of you may have. At the end of the webinar, the question period will be deleted and only the PowerPoints will remain. You may join by chat or by using your microphone to ask questions. Enjoy. I guess I'll begin by telling you who I am. My name is Jean Bastarache. I am a project management professional. I have over 20 years of experience in project management, actively working either as a project manager or a business analyst. I have also been an instructor of project management and other related fields, such as team building, of course, but also presentation skills, communication, team building, of course, that area, discipline. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you that I've got several years of experience in project management, and I find that it's only with experience and having lived through certain situations that a person is really able to put into practice the theory. So with that said, let's have a look. Our learning objectives will be to ensure that you have an idea of what it is we mean when we talk about virtual teams. Virtual teams are not really unlike physical teams in that you're going to be working with people and collaborating. So we're going to establish some of the key elements that have to be covered. We're going to be looking at how to hold effective team meetings. It's very difficult to hold team meetings in a virtual environment, and you'll see that although there are similarities, there is a need to be more present in terms of communication and feedback with your team members. You don't want to leave your team members to feel that they are too isolated and actually not really part of a team. We're going to be looking at how to build confidence and trust in team members. In keeping with what I just said, basically, it's just that we want to make sure that our team members are on the same page as we are, and that there's no opportunity for them to deviate too much and have a little bit of a surprise down the road. Surprises, like in any project management initiative, are things that we have to avoid. So, and then we'll have a little bit of a feedback session on the presentation, the conclusion, just to be able to ensure that everybody was able to see how we covered these elements. All right, so let's get right into it. Setting up a virtual team. Finding the right team members. You'll see that in virtual teams, just like physical teams, we don't always have the luxury of picking our team members, but we do have the opportunity to go and look for the skill set that is required. Like, we're going to need different team members who bring different pieces to the team, bring us some qualifications, some qualities that we seek, so that we're able to get the job done. So that said, we also have to be able to, once we have our team, ensure that the team is motivated, is excited about being there, and is collaborating. So skill set, motivated, disciplined team. You're going to need a team that, because they're remote, they're going to have to be self-starters. They're going to have to be people who are able to get the job done without you constantly looking over their shoulder. The other thing is that technologically they have to be able to work in a virtual environment. They're going to have to work with different sets of tools. They're not going to be able to knock on your door and say, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" They're going to have to somehow get a hold of you. So you're going to have to set up meetings, that kind of stuff. But it'll never be in a, well, or luckily, if you're lucky, they may be able to join you physically once or twice or whatever, but most likely the teams will be meeting remotely through Microsoft Teams, through Zoom, through any medium. So they have to be able to work with that technology, and it's not always easy. We're living it right now in this COVID environment, where since a lot of people are working remotely, the bandwidth causes issues, and sometimes there's difficulty in always being able to be there, or you lose your feed. So the team members will be working independently, like I said, but collaboratively, and they will have to set some objectives. They're going to have to define some goals, make some plans, and be flexible and innovative. In this respect, what I'm talking about is that maybe sometimes your team members are going to be in a different time zone. If they're in a different time zone, it's going to cause a problem, because it may be 5 o'clock where you are, but it's 3 o'clock in the morning where I am. So that they're going to have to be flexible. So we'll cover that. So there's going to have to be, just like in a physical meeting, there's going to have to be a kickoff meeting. This is a face-to-face if possible, but it's an initial team meeting. Sometimes some of the people will be physically with you and some of them won't be. So it'll be a little bit of a hybrid situation probably, but you have to keep that in mind. So what we're looking at sometimes is a kickoff where we're going to introduce the team members and we're going to ask them to talk a little bit about themselves and to introduce themselves, tell us what their area of work, their discipline, what their interests are. So it's important not to be too robotic, although we are working in a non-physical environment. So they're going to be talking to us about their skills and their area of expertise, like I said, but also about their availability, their time zone, that kind of stuff, because we're going to have to do a few little workarounds. As the project manager or the team leader, you're going to have to define for everyone the project goals and objectives. Make sure that everybody realizes what the scope of the project is, and be able to delineate the tasks and deliverables so that everybody's able to have their assignments and understand the time zones that we're looking at. Electronic filings, backups, document sharing, super important. Super important, because if you want the people to work collaboratively, you're going to want them to be able to share documents, edits, that kind of stuff. So it's very important that everybody understands how we're going to manage the project. So reporting and tracking, for example, you're going to have some milestones, and you're going to want to meet your deliverables. So this is the type of thing that we're going to make sure that the team members understand and are available. When I talk about available, I don't mean only available to participate in team meetings. They have to be available throughout the day. Things are going to happen We're not going to be able to walk down the hall, but we're going to be able to click and say, hey, John, for example, what did you mean by this or that on the document that you sent? So you understand? So the team meeting kickoff is just that. Hi, how are you? What do you do? And because I talked about not wanting to be too robotic, make sure that you have an opportunity there for them to be able to talk a little bit about themselves, tell us what their likes and dislikes are, what projects they've worked on recently, what are they proud of, and if they want to contribute a couple of minutes and tell you their hobbies or something like that, it'll be interesting because we want to be able to build a little bit of a team spirit, although you may never really be face to face with some of these team members or any of them. So social interaction is very important. You're going to have to set up the rules of engagement, and the rules of engagement are pretty basic. They're like in any other team. You're going to tell them that we're going to be working, for example, 5 days a week, 9 to 5. We're going to expect that their availability for meetings is such that for example, every Tuesday at 2 o'clock, we're going to have a 1 hour time slot set aside for a team meeting. We're going to be able to ask each of the sub-team members to set up their own team meetings so that they're also meeting in a subgroup and discussing some of the points and elements that they need to. So like I said a few minutes ago, you can ask the team members to share their interests and stuff like that. And make sure that if you don't do it in the overall team meeting, that you can still set up this kind of friendly atmosphere within your sub-teams. You may have a team of 2 or 3 that you're leading and that you're representing at the greater project team level weekly or bi-weekly. We're going to be still doing project trackers and ensuring that we're on schedule and that we're meeting our timelines. There's still a project sponsor who is interested in finding out how things are going. Somebody has given us a budget and a timeline. So we have to make sure that our team members are keen. They know what their role is. They know who to go to if they need to go someplace for advice, decision. So that's the kind of stuff we want to make sure that we have. So negativity is something that exists. I guess it's a human nature thing more than anything else. But make sure that by keeping a close rapport with your team members, that you're going to reduce the potential for negativity, because you want to make sure that everybody's pulling in the same direction. I wrote there that there's negative effects of Debbie Downers, and you know who a Debbie Downer is. It's a person who's always saying, well, that's not what you said, or that's not how I understood it, or that's not what we agreed to. So just make sure that everybody is pulling together, and ensure that you're asking your team members to participate, to share. Just don't let people just listen, because if they're just listening, well, it's not a communication when it's just in one direction. You may as well be going to a theater and just watching a performance. So the rules of engagement, maintain professionalism, even if your team members are working from home. It doesn't mean that they have to work in their pajamas and drink a bottle of beer while they're working. So make sure that from 9 to 5, if those are your hours, you may click on share screen, you may click on camera, You may want to show something that you have in your hand. So make sure that the professionalism is maintained. There have been instances where people will want to see you, they want to say hi, and they haven't seen you in 3 weeks or whatever. And it's happened to me. It's happened to me that when we do a round table, everybody clicks on their camera and everybody sees them. So make sure that you maintain professionalism. You are actually still working. Now, I talked about communication, and I mentioned here a phone tree, but just make sure that everybody knows how they can communicate with one another. They might not communicate with you, the team leader or the project manager, but they may need to reach out to other people who are on other teams, in fact. So make sure that everybody knows how to get around. The ground rules are what I talked about, the availability, the core hours, if you will, hours that we're all reachable. So maybe not from 9 to 5, but because of other facts and features, time zones, that kind of stuff. But make sure that there's a core hours. We're all available from 10 to noon. We're all available from 2 to 4, that kind of thing. Okay? So the use of technology, very important. You're going to want to be able to store your documents. You're going to want to be able to have some kind of a system where people can check in and check out documents. Okay? And of course, we'll want to have a project plan, maybe a milestone tracker, stuff like that, so that the people can see where they fit in. So scheduling is important. Like I mentioned, the flexibility around hours. There may be a member of your team that is not available 5 days a week. That's fine, as long as you know it. Rotation of times and dates. Like I mentioned a minute ago, that perhaps we'll have a team meeting every Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Well, that's fine for a month or so, but then be flexible. Somebody might say, it works better for me if, excuse me, we meet Fridays. That way we can have a rundown of the week. We can start the next week with a clear direction of what was done and what is outstanding and what is covered to be worked on in the short term versus the longer term. So scheduling is important that way. Flexibility. And travel implications, well, there may be some need for travel. Some people might have to be away. Some people might need to come and join you rather than be remote. So we got to remember that although it's a team that is not co-located, there may be needs to travel and meet or not be available for a time frame. So if you're going to have a business meeting, you're going to have an agenda. Everybody knows that, but it's not more important in a virtual team, but it is tremendously important. Clarity of purpose. So we need to have an agenda and stick to the same agenda. Normally you want to be able to have clear objectives, and you want to say that this is why we're meeting. These are the items that we're going to cover, and we're going to look at the to-dos and the project advancement and that kind of stuff. So stick to the same thing, like what we did last week, what we're doing this week, what we're doing next week, so that we know that we have our ducks in order. So provide a process where the people can add some items to the agenda. Additional topics like problems, risks, that kind of stuff. It's covered in a normal agenda, but it's also good to be able to add stuff. And that way you're ensuring that your team members are participating, and that's always very important, that they're adding their piece. Assignments, action items, like I said, the to-dos. It's always good to have a documentation of the key decisions and action items that come out of a business meeting, so that there's clarity. So, John, you're going to cover that and report back next week. Mary, you're going to cover this and give us an idea of what are the options next time we meet or by tomorrow, that kind of stuff, so that you can cover it. So preparation and presentation, well, you're going to want to demonstrate stuff. You're going to want to share your screen like I'm sharing right now. So just make sure that everybody knows that that is something that can be done, something that they can expect to be able to use, and that it's available to all team members. So why? Well, there it is again. It's to avoid surprises. Plan to cover everything and everyone. If there are 5 people on the team meeting, make sure that you reach out to every one of them. Not everybody's an extrovert. Not everybody likes to be able to take charge. So remember, if I'm saying that now, I'm also thinking, watch out for the ones who are going to be rambling on and cutting people off and that kind of stuff. So it's a business meeting. It's scheduled, it's documented, and we're reaching out to team members. So make sure that everybody participates and that nobody takes over. You can rotate who's going to be the team leader, a little bit like in an agile methodology, where it's not necessarily the scrum master who leads the scrum. It could be anybody, but just set that up in advance. Who's going to be in charge? Who's making a presentation this week? I may be chairing the meeting, but John here may be making a presentation that's going to last 15 minutes. We don't know. Be flexible. So more than a status report, you're going to have to differentiate the types of meetings that you're having. Yes, you can have a status meeting, but you can have all kinds of business meetings that involve the greater team or the sub-team. So differentiate these and make sure that the people understand what it is that is going to be expected from them so that they can be prepared. So if you're going to give out some work assignments to people, make sure that they are clear, that they know that. And you can't really give an assignment to somebody without giving them a time frame. So if you're going to say to somebody that you want him to do or her to do this task and report back on it, well, give them a timeline and get them to accept that timeline. Don't say, John, I want this by Friday. John has to tell you that it's doable or that it's not doable and that he can have it done for you Friday or another time. So make it an information sharing meeting. You're not making a speech to a group of people that are assembled. You're communicating, and communicating, like I said, is a two-way thing. You're not going to be able to see their faces if they have their cameras turned off. You're not going to be able to read the body language. So just make sure that everybody is in there and they're participating, and they may be turning their microphone off so that you don't hear page turning and stuff like that, but make sure that you're keeping track of that. So make sure that they're able to not only participate, but you may say something that somebody's going to think is out in left field. So let them challenge. There's nothing better than challenging, because it'll give you an opportunity to see new opportunities and new ideas. So encourage that kind of thing. I have here, avoid moderator presentations. The moderator, like for example, I'm the moderator right now, but make sure that that the team is able to benefit from the meeting and participate and debate and that kind of stuff, not just listen to somebody ramble on stuff that they already know or that was already covered, or it's a repeat from last week or last month. So make sure that everybody has the opportunity to just jump in and challenge and participate, not only by saying yes and yes, but by really participating. And passive aggressive behaviors, they're harder to identify when you're working remotely on the screen, but you're going to get to be able to read your team members. You're going to know what's the underlying factor that's motivating them. If you hear a lot of that kind of stuff, just make sure that you're watching for passive aggressive. Here's an example of a passive aggressive behavior. Yes, 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 yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. Yeah, sure. See, those types of answers, they're not contributing very openly. They're just saying, yeah, sure, yeah, you're the boss. So watch for that kind of stuff, because it'll bite you in the end. So communication is the very most important thing. You cannot lead a virtual team by sitting in your office and doing your work. You have to be out there. So make sure that you're reaching out to each of your team members all the time. Make sure that they know that you're monitoring the situation, watching for the work to get checked back in. So schedule individual meetups. If I'm going to be the project manager and I'm going to have 2 or 3 team leads that I meet weekly, well, I might meet my team leads weekly, but I can meet my team leads individually as well. So, sorry, set up a schedule where you can do that. I'm going to meet with you guys on Fridays at 2 because that's what you want. But I'm going to also meet with you individually at different times. Set up to do exactly that, to monitor your work. We can talk anytime between the core hours that we set up. And I'll see if you're available, because these tools like Microsoft Teams and that, they can see that you're available or that you're in a call or that you're presenting. That's okay. That's perfect. So schedule these individual touchdowns. Stay in touch with your people and make sure that they in turn are staying in touch with their team members. Don't wait for team members to call on you, because they won't. If there's one thing that I learned, is that if you leave people alone, they're going to feel that they are detached. So remember, when we set up our team, we were looking for self-starters, motivated people that didn't need to be told what to do every second of the day. So make sure that you're staying on top of that. If you're waiting for them to come to you with a problem, they won't. Or they will, but it'll be too late. So make sure that I don't want to talk about it anymore. I think I've covered it. So why is communication so important? Because clarity, efficiency, eliminates delays, increases productivity. Look at this one: boosts morale and satisfaction. Create an issues register for resolution and follow-up. Things are gonna go well, and then things are not gonna go so well. And then there's going to be problems, and things are not gonna work out as you had planned them. Nothing wrong with that. It's normal, it happens all the time. So what do we want to do about that? Well, we want to make sure that we have opportunities to look at different options and to be able to go back on what we said and what we did, and just try to resolve our issues just like we do usually, but make sure that everybody is in the know, not just on how's the project going, but how is your piece of the project going. So you're going to assign some work. So ensure that you maintain a two-way communication network. You know, it's just that you want to make sure that if you assign a task to someone and that someone agrees to the task and agrees to the timeline, make sure that you're staying on top of it. Monitor. There may be instances where a person is not able to produce or meet their timeline because of a dependency. So you have to know what the dependency is and you have to be able to act on that dependency. So if John can't do something because Mary hasn't completed something by the anticipated time, well, we just got to find out how we can help Mary. That's all. So it's them to be responsible for their work, and it's you to be responsible to make sure that they can do their work and that they have the tools. So clarity, response, timing, form, you need to have a process. And if you have a process, you're going to be able to rely on it. And every team member will know that the process is there. They're going to input in it. They're going to be able to say, I've completed this task. I'm working on this second task. This task is 100% complete, but needs to be tested or needs to be integrated. So it's value of contributions and new ideas. You know, when you do a test and your piece works, you're pretty happy about that. But when you test the piece that you did along with the other pieces, that's where you're able to say, hey, I just thought of something. Maybe we should try this. Maybe this would be more efficient. So if the people start to get ownership of their work, of the product that we're working on, that's where you're going to be able to see that the team is performing. You know, they always talk about that in teams, right? We have to be able to perform and take ownership and be responsible for what we're doing. And that way the people are happy. So virtual or not, it is important to have that contact. You're not going to be able to see the body language, but you're going to be able to catch on to the tone. You're going to be able to say, you know, if somebody says, oh, not that again, or not him again, or that kind of stuff. So just make sure that you're able to read into that. Don't read into it anything that's not there, but just make sure that it's one of the aspects of virtual teams that is important. So you can Skype and Zoom and whatever with these people independently and as a team, and they in turn can do the same thing. So make sure they have the tools. So don't underestimate the power of talking in person. You know, texting and emailing, yeah, it's good, and we've gone too far with that stuff, and people rather text than speak. But keep in mind that it's important to be able to keep that human piece alive and well. So they're going to be sharing our documents, and they're going to be checking it out and checking it back in and editing and adding to it and creating new documents. So we have to have a good, solid SharePoint type solution for documentation and backups. My gosh, backups are so important, and versioning. So this is stuff that is important in a physical team, but in a virtual team, people have to know where to get the documents, and they have to make sure that they're working on the most recent version of the document, and that when they save their changes, we're all seeing the new version. So version control, super important. Super important. You're not going to be able to excuse me. You're not going to be able to go to somebody and say, "Where is that?" You're going to have to know where it is. So consider the implications of decisions and future references. Imagine you're working on something, and when it's done and it's been implemented, people are going to go and they're going to want to do a post-implementation review, or later on somebody's going to start asking questions of something like, "Hey, why did you guys do that? Whose big idea was that to use that tool?" So make sure that you document all of the decisions, because somebody may be auditing your project down the road. So these are just little considerations that we should always be aware of, but just don't lose track of that. So formalize where necessary. So have a decision register. Maybe even not necessarily a physical sign off, but document that this decision was made by this person on this date, and that you have a record of it. Okay, so it's always good to be able to go back to these things and say, why did we choose this tool versus that tool? So maintain records of actions, items, and resolutions. You should have a risk registry. You should identify your risks. You should mitigate your risk. You should take action to eliminate risks, and that's fine. But document it. And it's the same with decisions and issues. Sometimes risks could turn into issues, but if there's issues, then they're going to require a decision to be able to resolve the issue. So it's no more complicated than ever before. So differentiate the quick and easy from the formal. Sometimes we don't have to, we're not building a nuclear power station. If it's a quick and easy, you call your boss, your boss says, "Yes, I agree. Let's go with A versus B." You can write an email. You can put a note to file. You don't have to get the queen involved. So there's formal and there's less formal. So don't add any extra layers of burden to the project team. It's complicated enough as it is. So you just make sure that everybody knows that we have to get this done by this date. You have to get back to me so that I can go and share with other people, our stakeholders. So like I said, if you involve your team members and they participate, you're going to see that the productivity gains are going to be fantastic. And they're going to come through because the people are going to want to talk more. They're going to want to collaborate. They're going to want to be able to come up with new ideas. They're going to challenge you on some of the decisions that we made that may need to be revised or reviewed. So it's going to be really good to have new information. And you know what it's going to do is that it's going to avoid surprises and misinformation. Like if we're not all working together, we may be heading in different directions. And at the end, when we do an integration of our pieces, we're going to find out that the fit just isn't there. So make sure that you give the people the opportunity to make their ideas known and to share. So there's going to be, how there's 5 phases in project management, but we always know that there's the finger pointing phase that pops up every now and then. And the finger pointing phase is the one where it's his fault, or it's your fault, or it's not my fault, or you didn't get it done on time. So just make sure that if we're upfront about everything and we are providing opportunities for everyone to participate, that they're going to like working together, and they're going to trust one another, and they're going to be involved, and everything is going to go off good. There'll be some issues, there'll be some problems, but look, what we're trying to do is manage the project. So maintain constant contact, right? I said hours, emails, phone calls, formal, informal. Um, Make sure that you're there for them. You make sure that they understand that you're there for them. You're going to support them, and you're going to be available to them. They might not ever come to you with problems, but they probably will, and they might come to you with new ideas. So don't assume that everything's all right if you're not hearing from them. Check in, monitor productivity, ask questions, offer support. Is there anything I can do for you? Are you having trouble meeting your timeline? Do you need some help? That kind of stuff. So maintain contact with your team members. Now, you should have a communication protocol. And a communication protocol, like I said, it's like the telephone number tree that I was talking about. So make sure that everybody knows how they can get a hold of you and how they can get a hold of other people. So I think it's important. Yeah, sometimes you hate to bring it up, but the tools that you're giving them to work on the project, they're for business purposes. They're not to email their kids or whatever. So make sure that the professionalism is maintained and that we're always using the tools that we have made available for the project that we're working on. So we shouldn't be emailing people willy-nilly about this, that, or the other thing. It's work related. Now, that being said, we're not robots. So if somebody wants to say to somebody in California, for example, hey, how's the weather down there? We're freezing over here. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. But I mean, keep it business related as much as you possibly can, but engage with your team members. The environment is very important for building that trust. So it's good to foster a relationship. You may never have worked with any of the people on the team, but you may work with them on future teams. So maintain that human contact. You know, uh, it, it's easy to in a virtual environment because we don't see the people and we don't get an opportunity to talk to them, by the water cooler or in the elevator. Just try to make sure that you can throw in a little bit of that humanity and how was your weekend and that kind of stuff. So it's just a way of making sure that a team is a team and that it's not a bunch of robots working. So there may be territorial issues where productivity is impacted. Ensure that the team members know what piece of the project they're working on and what piece that the other team is working on and the integration. The team members have to feel that they're part of a sub-team, but they're also part of the bigger team and that we're all working to be able to produce this one result. So make them feel that they're not left out. Constantly ask them for opinions and that kind of stuff. It's important. So share best practices with them. Tell them, yeah, we had that problem before, and here's what we did then. And guess what? Somebody might say, well, that was not a good idea, was it? And you might have to agree with them. So I talked about it a little bit earlier, but ownership is very important. Create an environment where the people are proud of their work and proud of the elements or the key the qualities that they add to the team, the knowledge that we are counting on. Very important. So once they've established that sense of ownership, they're going to start telling you what to do rather than having you tell them what to do. And that is good. Ensure that the team is working cohesively, they're humming, and they're not asking you constantly for advice. They're going to be telling you, hey, this is what we decided to do the other day, and look at this. So they're going to be successful, and everybody will be pleased. Now, in a team, there's going to be cultural differences that you're going to have to understand. There's different ways that different cultures embrace issues and projects, and just make sure that you're staying on top of that. It might not even be true culture issues, but you know how sometimes age, for example, or you're working with an expert, a guru, an SAP guru who knows everything, for example, or who seems to always have the answer. Well, make sure that you value their participation, but you don't have to be down to their knees like they're the kings or anything. But know that some people are going to be short in their answers. So some people are going to not seek opinions. So you're going to have to jump in and throw in your opinions. So make sure that you understand that different people have different ways of working. So it could be cultural, but it could be age, it could be gender related, it could be that somebody just doesn't dare say something because they know that the other person probably will discount what they're saying. So make sure that you create an environment where that doesn't happen, or happens very few times, and that it can be resolved. So we have to be flexible, and we have to be able to make adjustments to our work routines. So allow your team members to sync up and to talk to one another, and to resolve their own problems, and to only raise issues and concerns to the overall team if they can't resolve it themselves, or if they want some input. And my last thing here is don't turn a blind eye to conflicts, however minor. Little things have a way of just blowing up sometimes. So make sure that if you see or sense that something is coming off track, that you address it. You guys okay? You guys okay? You guys need anything? Is there anything I'm not aware of? That kind of talk. It's good, because somebody might just say, well, now that you mention it, oh, wow. So just make sure you know that. So you're going to have to learn to understand your team members and know how they tick, what makes them tick. So ensure that your team members have an opportunity to contribute and collaborate and all that, but make sure that you're treating them fairly, and that you're not discounting one person over another, that kind of stuff. So you're looking for a team of people who are self-starters, who are motivated, who learn. So remember, they're part of your team, and there's something in it for them. They're going to be able to add this project to their resume. They're going to be able to say that they participated on a virtual team that realized X, Y, Z. So make sure that they know that, and that they understand that, because it's not just you that's getting something here. So stereotyping, for example, is an example. When you stereotype, for example, you're going to have some young people and some more experienced people on your team. Well, what I've learned about the young people is that they're very eager to learn. They're very eager to ask questions. They'll say things to you like, I'll take that on. Whereas some of the other people might not be that eager. They're just there to do their job, and they're happy with that, and they're doing a good job. So make sure that everybody is very, very positive. Learn to understand what makes them tick. So set goals and objectives. Let them set goals and objectives. As a project manager, of course, you're going to set some goals and objectives, but make sure that they agree to them, that the team leads agree to the overall project goals and objectives, but that they are also setting goals and objectives with their team members. So make sure that they're clear and that they're doable, realizable. Recognize that if you're going to have these 4 or 5 tasks, that you're going to be able to assign them, you're going to be able to give them a timeline, but that the people that you're assigning them to recognize that it's doable and that it's doable in that time frame. So just make sure that everybody understands what needs to be done. Setting goals is important, and being able to deliver on that is even more important. So you're going to have to establish some clear milestones. They're going to have to understand the clear milestones. You know, if a project is a 2-year project, well, these milestones may be far apart, but they come up awfully quick sometimes. So make sure that everybody realizes that. So they have to be realizable. So if I'm telling you that I want this done by June 30th, well, you have to accept that it will be done and that you have the resources to do it. Remember what I said, we want to avoid those darn surprises. So create standard operating procedures. You know, we should have some processes and procedures that are established, that everybody knows, you know, like I was talking about checking in and checking out documents, having a risk register, a decision register. So we should have these repositories of data, of information, project information, and task information that are readily available for all. So you're going to build a team culture, and they're going to feel like they belong to a family now, and that they know where this is and where that is. So allow the team members to work together on some aspects to bring them closer. You know, I mentioned that they can talk about the weather, they can talk about how their weekend went, but you know, you're going to create a rapport with them that they're going to feel like, I really like working with that guy or this gal. So provide mechanisms where they're able to provide feedback, positive or negative feedback. I remember I had a professor one time that said that feedback is very important, and we should be looking for negative feedback, because negative feedback is where we're going to create an adjustment. Like if your car is running off the road, you're going to make an adjustment with the steering wheel. So you're reacting to negative feedback. You're going off the road. So just make sure that you give them an opportunity to provide that feedback to you. So focus on results. Results matter more, eh? Process matters, but results matter more. So what's important is not how we got there, it's that we got there. Okay, so remember that. So you have to be proactive, you have to monitor closely, and you have to make sure that everybody realizes that we're working on this together, and we're advancing. We're taking pride in our work and the results that we are achieving. Inclusion. It's peer reviews are important. So I'm going to create something work, you're going to test it. We're going to create something individually. We are going to have reviews, and we're going to be able to collaborate and adjust. You know, change is good. I know in the old days, we used to say, you gave us your requirements, we built it, and this is how you wanted it. Remember, in Agile project management, we don't really have that kind of clear, defined specifications they evolve, and we encourage change. Well, we don't encourage change per se, but we encourage uh, different aspects. We will include this, we will exclude that because it doesn't add any value after all. You know, why build a component that will never be used? It's just adding to the complexity. So just remember, uh, you're doing this for your project, but you're also building team members. You're building resources that are going to be valuable for this project, but for future projects as well. So you got to make sure that when you build a virtual team, you have the proper tools to be able to collaborate. You know, you're going to be doing video conferencing like we're doing. You're going to have chat rooms, this kind of stuff. The documentation on SharePoint, uh, Basecamp was a good example we used in other projects. And you're going to want to monitor the advancement of your project with something like Microsoft Project. It's a easy, like if it's an easy 1 month project and you don't want to get into Microsoft Project, well, by all means, don't. But have tools to be able to monitor your project. So let's look back at what we covered. We identified some of the key elements to establishing a virtual team. And I talked a little bit about how to hold effective meetings. Remember, we need agendas, we need opportunities for people to talk, but we have to be able to check in on people and make sure that we don't just leave them there, because if you do, they're not going to be able to contribute to too much. So we have some takeaways here. And the takeaways are that we need to be able to build trust and inclusion. We need to be able to check in on them and not wait for people to contact us, but manage the team, manage the virtual team like you would a physical team. So this leads us to the question period. So I'll cut out right now, and I hope that we can answer some of your questions now. Thanks a lot, everybody, and have a good week.